LBC News.
Now, social workers have reported families living in Dickensian conditions because of high energy costs. A union survey has seen reports of families living in substandard and dangerous housing, with some choosing between paying for heating or food. The End of Fuel Poverty Coalition says a structured programme of financial support must be introduced before the winter. Joining me now, John McGowan, General Secretary of the Social Workers Union. John, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to share the findings of this dreadful survey.
Well, indeed, absolutely. I wanted to ask you firstly, actually, given it's now 2024, nobody would want to hear people are suffering in conditions like those of hundreds of years ago, do they? Excessive mould and so on. But clearly something's gone badly wrong. So tell us more about your main concerns and findings.
Yeah, something's really gone badly wrong. Indeed, the idea of our survey was really a basic survey of our members, but what was standing out was this particular item around poverty and children living in dangerous conditions. And we were really surprised with the stats that it was coming across quite clearly that there was over 60% of our members were reporting that they'd witnessed young people living in conditions which were appalling, really excessive mould and also poor housing. So that was the reality which led it to us, really, that we wanted to share these particular parts from the findings. I guess my view is a General Secretary of the Social Workers Union, and I think it's reflected all over, that being a rich country, we should be giving the people we're working with warm, dry, healthy homes to live in. And I think we need to look at wider solutions, because what we're finding is just appalling, really, for the very people that we're meant to be helping.
And if people are indeed living with things like you've outlined, damp and mould, then having to leave the heating off, say, in winter, just, to save on energy costs, it just makes things worse, surely, and affects health outcomes, particularly if we're talking about children, the elderly, people with complex medical needs.
Yeah, well, particularly children. Previous research has highlighted that even living in damp, mould-infested homes, that children are up to 3 times more likely to experience other symptoms like coughing or wheezing or respiratory problems. So, in a way, that it's actually creating wider problems for the very people that we're trying to help. And there's no way out, because there's a real crisis in the housing, as we know. So there's not even any solution to finding a different home or creating new homes. So really, this is why we're highlighting it now. It's a chronic shortage of social housing.
Give us a sense too, John, if you would, about whether you found this survey similar conditions right across the country, or indeed was it worse in some parts?
Yeah, it was worse actually in Scotland. It was higher. It was over 70% in Scotland. I think in the North East was 67%. So they were all fairly similar around the stats. But I think what is important was that what it showed was a high level. So it wasn't just a small percentage. It was almost 2/3 of our members who were reporting such conditions. And it's the very people that we work with. So as social workers, we're trying to promote change. We're trying to change lifestyle. But if you're working with such chronic housing situations, that it makes it hard. Indeed, one of our members highlighted that she's often in tears when she leaves the home because she just can't do anything about it. And even getting through to the local housing associations or the local housing office is a hard task. And there's no solution. There's not an option. Is okay, we'll move the family. So you're in a queue to be either moved, or you're in a queue for your house to be sorted. And in the meantime, our children and families are living in squalid conditions.
I was reading a statement earlier from the Warm This Winter campaign. Let me just read out a little of it, certainly for the benefit of our listeners. They say, "This is a heart-rending and all too familiar story where the most vulnerable are at risk because of our broken energy system, and we need urgent change before even more children, the elderly and others become ill or worse. As a rich country, at the very least, we should be giving our people warm, dry, healthy homes to live in. That's why we need long-term solutions like expanding homegrown renewable energy and a mass programme of insulation to bring down bills once and for all." Now, no doubt you would back a statement like that, but for you and colleagues, is the government taking heed?
No, I don't think they are. I think that it's a national scandal, and we need drastic action being taken to fix the Britain's broken energy system and the housing system. I think it's been overlooked. I think the narrative's been very much, we're on change and there's a positive outlook in our society. But I think if you look deeper into items like housing, like the living conditions, that we can see a whole level of society that are particularly suffering, and it's not often in the forefront of people's thinking. And it's really the conditions that are way beyond what you can expect and is normal, really.
Good to go through the core issues with you, John. Appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for joining us live here on LBC News Breakfast. General Secretary there of the Social Workers Union, John McGowan.
LBC News.
Right,